everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. I'm going to do the rest of my wrap up today for you. So this is something where in May I definitely felt slumpy. I did not want to pick up books, but I also was having a lot of headaches, so I definitely was not able to focus on words, and a lack of focus was never fun. But I am going to talk to you today about the rest of the books that I read. So I read 5 books in the beginning of the month, and I talked about them in my mid-month wrap-up. I will link that down below and in the cards. But I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, One Little Lie by Colleen Coble, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling, Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens, and Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare. So, well, watched Shakespeare. But those are the first 5. Now we're going on to the next 5. And I had a pretty good reading month. I think what I didn't feel like reading, I dropped, and what I wanted to read, I read. So it ended up being like a lot of high quality books, but not a lot of books. And I'm okay with that because I prefer the quality over the quantity, to be frank. So the first book that I read was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, since filming, obviously. And I finished that actually the same day, and I thought it was good. I am not the target audience. I have never been the target audience for YA. Even though when I was in the age group, I just never really got it. So in regards to that, I was accepting of the fact that it's not hitting my perfect place in my heart. It was very enlightening, and I did really appreciate the anxiety that was represented there, and I thought it was a good book. It's nothing spectacular to me, but it was good in its representation. I felt like, yes, I do not suffer from anxiety or live with anxiety. I could not speak to that quality, but I was appreciative that it was there. So yeah, it was good. I gave it 3 stars. It was middle of the road in that kind of quality plot, but like I said, I appreciated the representation. The next book that I read was Dual Citizens by Alex Onlin. Onlin, I believe is how you pronounce it, and this is for a book club. I managed to find time to squeeze it in, and I think I gave it 3 stars. It was nothing memorable to me. It was the story of 2 sisters, I believe it was Raven and another bird name. I don't remember. But basically Lark, that was it. Robin and Lark, actually. Robin and Lark, I believe. It's slowly coming back. But Robin and Lark are 2 sisters. Lark is the first person narrative in this book, and it follows her journey with her mother and her sister and how she feels like she's a nobody. It also follows her into the world of video editing, which I did find interesting, but a lot of people in the book club found very boring and dull. But as someone who edits videos for a channel, I really could appreciate that content in the book. However, this book is all about motherhood, mother and daughter relationships, sister relationships. It's all about the woman, and that was nice to see. However, I felt like it just was unmemorable. I did feel like the first person narrative was well done. I'm very picky with first person narratives. So I felt like it was not annoying to read that first person narrative, but I also at the same time was just kind of meh. And I knew that I picked it up like 3 days before the book club meeting, and if I did not have that deadline, I would have forgotten about it and would not have finished it. So I don't know what that says to the book, but 3 stars, average book, nothing spectacular. The next book is one that I read for Mental Health Athon as well. I don't remember exactly what the mental illness was in this Agatha Christie, but that's the ABC Murders. So this was my Agatha Christie book of the month. I really enjoyed this one. I have listened to a radio drama before of it, but I had never actually read it. So I felt like it was about time I did that. And this was on a list of books that contain mental health, and I'm really unsure of what that exactly diagnosis was, but it was definitely present in one character. Now, this book follows Hercule Poirot as he receives a letter which basically describes that something is going to happen in a small little town. And then on the date that it says, a woman is killed in Anchorage, Okay, now Alice Asher is a shopkeeper in Andover. A. And so she is found dead, and then Hercule Poirot gets a letter about a second potential victim in a town that starts with B, and suddenly things get a little nuts. Now, this, I think, is Agatha Christie's only serial killer book to my knowledge. There have been books where there has been a second attempted murder, or there's been a murder to cover up a previous murder, but this is the only one, I think, where it's an intentional serial killer from the beginning. They intend to kill multiple people in this event. So it's just something where it was interesting. I really like how this plot develops, and Hercule Poirot in this book is actually kind of fun. And I think I gave this one 5 stars. This one was really, really great. I love the development of it, and I love how there's this unknown element because it's a serial killer that you're just wondering where the next town is and who the next victim is. It was very craftily done. Very, very clever. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Anyways, I highly recommend this one. Really enjoyed it. Like I said, 5 stars. The next book that I read was Hospital Sketches by Louisa May Alcott. This was for the Louisa May 2020 read-along. This one, I feel like it was a me problem with the book because I gave it 3 stars, but I think my headspace wasn't right. I don't think I was able to focus very well with my headaches. So that was a problem for sure. It was good quality. I definitely found it interesting. I found the characters to be, I mean, it's Louisa May Alcott in her own book. She's put her own stories in this fun but serious way. And it really shed light, I think, on the Civil War and how the nurses were in the war and what their expectations were to do. I definitely liked it, but I definitely found myself losing focus. And so I don't know if I think that's a me problem, not the book problem. So, I mean, I feel like that one's one that would be better on a reread for me, so I could really get more enjoyment out of it, or more meat. Right now, it's a 3-star for me, but I definitely have plans to reread it in the future. And then hopefully, I'm assuming I will give it a higher rating because it was well done. I just don't remember much. And then to follow up one that was about nursing in the Civil War, I followed that up with 10 Days in a Madhouse by Nellie Bly. This was a really hard read. I mean, it's not long, but it is agonizing. So it is a 5-star from me because of just the quality. And I read some reviews, and some people thought it was too impersonal. And at the same time as I could see that, but I also really appreciated the journalist look at it, where you could tell her own bias was not involved. She just reported what happened. And at the same time as that, there was this level of, what in the world is going on here? It was just so sad, the treatment of these women, how she got to an asylum, and then she was put in this nice little place. It wasn't perfect, but it was nicer, and then they shipped them off to this place that nobody cared about them. The nurses would beat them as long as the doctors weren't around, and they couldn't say anything to the doctors because the doctors would just take the nurse's word, and then there'd be more beatings. It was horrific to read, but I felt like it was really worth it to read. I recommend reading it, but there are so many trigger warnings for death, for this kind of attempted murder, for abuse, for neglect. It was a hard book, but I do recommend reading it if you're in the right mind space, because it could be very bad if you're not. And I definitely felt so horrible while reading it, and I just wanted to finish it so I wouldn't have to keep sitting in this world. But at the same time, I really felt like it was enlightening, and that I felt like was the purpose of this book. So the next one that I read was, I read a lot of heavy books in a row. This one is heavy, but not in a bad way. And that would be The Two Towers by Jrr Tolkien. I read this with Victoria from A Musical Bookworm. We had a lot of fun reading this and discussing this. It was a blast. I put up a full review of my thoughts on this book, and I will link it as well. Basically, loved it, 5 stars, can't wait for Return of the King, and I am so excited to see where everything goes next. And so the last book that I finished was for another book club. I'm part of a few. So I think that like 4 of these books are book club books this month. But this one is for the Biblical Fiction Buffs, which is a Goodreads group and run by Jenna Van Mourik, who is a Instagrammer and a booktuber. So I will link her down below as well, and the group. But in that one we read Daughter of Rome by Tessa Afshar. Now this is a book that I bought before the whole pandemic, so I was very excited to actually finally pick it up. And this one was perfection to me as well. I love Tessa Afshar's writing. So this one follows Priscilla and Aquila, who are featured in the New Testament as part of the local church in Corinth, I believe is where they're mentioned in the Bible, 1st or 2nd Corinthians, maybe Romans. But this is where this follows Priscilla, who at least in this version is a Roman citizen, and Aquila, who is a Jew. Now, this is the thing about biblical fiction, is that it's not 100% truth because there's no way to guarantee that. But it is nice to be put into that world and see the world through a different perspective, and to see the New Testament or the New Testament world and those people around them, like Paul or any other church leaders, in a different light or more personable light. It was really interesting, and I felt like this was such a good book about forgiveness and about worth and about the eternal love of God. I really highly recommend adding this to anyone if you are interested in biblical fiction. And you don't really read a lot about New Testament era, especially after Jesus. So this was really great to read. So I have 3 more books to talk about. I'm just gonna talk about them as a whole. And this is something that I did not finish, and I was very disappointed in this. You cannot imagine how disappointed I am. So basically, before this whole library pandemic closure thing happened, I ran to the library that night, the night it was closing, and picked up a bunch of books. And of those books, I had Janet Ivanovich's the first 3 Plum novels, and I had picked up High Five. So this is all in the same series, the Stephanie Plum novels. I am not going to be finishing this series at all. So the first one I read last night. I read this, the first 50 pages of this book, and I was uncomfortable. I did not appreciate all the sexual content that was going on, and I did not like the writing style. This first person did not fly well with me. Like I said earlier, I'm very picky about first person, and this was definitely not sufficient. So after 50 pages, I quit this one, and I thought maybe, just maybe, this was it's the first book in a series, and I will like the rest of the books in the series. So then I picked up High Five. Since I had it, I was like, I might as well just try it. And after about 15 pages, 20 pages, I was like, this is still not for me. Still don't like the writing style, still don't like the way it's being written, which is the same thing I just said. I just didn't like this character, and I was hoping for a different character, or at least some character growth, seeing as it's 4 books later, which wasn't the case. And then I was like, you know what? I have only listened to Janet Ivanovich's work, aside from The Great Kahuna, which I did not like very much. I gave it 3 stars after giving the whole series like 4 stars, and I was very disappointed with The Great Big Kahuna. And so I listened to the 3rd book. I found it on Overdrive. I found 3 for the money, and I listened to about 2 minutes and didn't change my opinion. So I will not be reading any Stephanie Plum books from Janet Ivanovich. I will give her one more chance with a different series. So let me know down in the comments if there's a series that Janet Ivanovich wrote that I should check out that is not the Stephanie Plum series, because I do really love the O'Hara and Fox series, but I'm starting to think after reading these that maybe I just like Lee Goldberg's writing, and she was just along for the ride in my writing, in my book. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's disappointing because I was really hoping to find a new author that I loved and I could read like their 50 books, but this is just not the case. So that is all the books I read. I'm now going to go into the readathons because I did do the medieval-a-thon and the mental health-a-thon. So now I'm going to go into what each book was, as they kind of doubled up. The book that comes up is Turtles All the Way Down, which was a host pick. The next one was Learn More About, which is The 10 Days in a Madhouse. The oldest book on my TBR, I went with The ABC Murders, as I've owned that book for a very long time. Then Self-Care was Antony and Cleopatra. Newest book, I don't think I did, which is a little unfortunate. Maybe we'll say Turtles All the Way Down is that one, but it's kind of not either. Then Nonfiction was 10 Days in a Madhouse again. YA was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And green, I kind of fudged this one because I didn't have any books that worked. So I'm saying Turtles All the Way Down has green on the cover, as it is John Green. And so I know it's not meant that way, but I did it that way. Anyways, on to Medieval Athon. So Medieval Athon, I managed to fit all my books into it. So for the clothes line, for all the clothes that I acquired the Pristine, which was my One Little Lies, the Yellowed, which was the Two Towers, my favorite color, which was Where the Crawdads Sing, and under 300 pages was Hospital Sketches. So up here are all of the things and then the prompts underneath. So for weapons, I got the sword, which was something sharp on the cover. So Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix has a tower on it. And I just have a little gripe about it. Why do all the covers in this collection give away the big plot? Has anyone noticed that before? Anyways, the next one I got was a bow and an arrow, which is a romance, and so I got that with Antony and Cleopatra, which could have been a tragedy, but I also consider it romantic. It has romance in it. The next was a shield, which was a 5-star prediction, which was I changed into the ABC Murders, as I did expect that one to be perfection. Then for pets, I got whatever I could fit in. So for pets, I got a chicken, which was the scary book, and that was 10 Days in a Madhouse. A dog, which was a buddy read, which was Dual Citizens, as I did read it for a book club. I kind of count it. Then I got a horse, which was a tall book, and I read Dark Matter for that. And then a fox with orange on the title cover was Turtles All the Way Down. So I managed to fit everything in, and I was very excited about all of the readathons and getting all of my different things. Thank you for watching this video. Oh, I guess I didn't do stats yet. Okay, stats. So out of the 12 books that I read this month, I read 3,781 pages. And of those 12 books, I read 3 3-stars, 1 4-star, and 8 5-stars. So quality over quantity. So according to genres, I would read 1 true crime, 4 historical fiction, which are also probably historical mysteries as well in some regards, as Where the Crawdads Sing definitely got into that category for historical, even though it's a mystery too. 2 mysteries, just straight out mysteries. It looks like I put on here 1 memoir, but I think that was my Hospital Sketches, which maybe I'll count as a memoir, even though it's fictionalized a little. We'll fudge it a bit. And then I also read 1 coming of age, contemporary, 2 contemporaries actually, and then I read 2 fantasy, which is fun. Everything that I read was for adult, aside from 2, which were Harry Potter and Turtles All the Way Down. And then I got most of them from my own personal collection, which is very, very nice. The library being closed kind of helped, even though I had a stack of library books to get through. So I only had 2 library books out of this, 2 ebooks that I purchased, which is now a new category, as I discovered I like tracking what I physically own, but I also sometimes just buy the ebooks. So 2 ebooks that I bought, and then 2 books that I bought in 2020. And then however many is left, 6 books were previously on my shelves before 2020. And that is that. I have had a very good reading month in terms of quality, and I hope it continues through June. I'm already feeling energized to pick up books and read whatever I want without sticking to a TBR. And yet I'm still making myself TBRs. As in my TBR for the month, you can see that I did not make a TBR. I have a couple books and that is it. So it will be an interesting month to say the least. Thank you for watching this wrap up of the month. It was a really good one. I felt like I read a lot of great books for Mental Health-a-thon, and I read a lot of fun books for Medieval-a-thon. I had a blast with those 2 readathons, and I definitely love participating in them as I did last year, and I will definitely continue to do so in the future. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you subscribe if you would like to and like this video. Give me a comment down below about what you read this month, if it was anything exciting or brand new. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on your books that you read. I'll talk to you next time in another video. Bye for now.